Blessings and welcome to the BioCreation Workshop. I know for some of you, you've taken this workshop before, and I was just feeling into the frequency before I got on, and I'm going to start this just a little bit differently. But before we get started, I'll just introduce myself. I'm Jules Arness, and I'm the founder of Activate Evolution. And you're welcome to go and kind of play in all the different offerings that we have there, from courses to sessions to live interactive shows that you can join and experience the frequency for free. I have been on a consciousness path for over 30 years. I started reading intuitively frequency patterns at the age of 16, and I've been lucky enough to call in high master teachers at a very young age. And I can't remember exactly how old I was. I think I was in my mid 30s, maybe a little bit before then, that I really started to realize that to go to the next level, that I had to go into my own inner technology. And I kind of switched from looking for the teacher to becoming the teacher. And when I tapped into that technology, really everything changed for me. And from that space, starting to reprogram my mind to reach higher levels of consciousness was my journey for quite a while. And I healed myself from a spine injury in 2013. And when I did that, it was the first time I actually tapped into just how powerful it is to reprogram on a cellular level. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today as we go into the teaching. And I think that's enough that I'll say about myself. I think there is value in knowing the person, but what I want to invite you into is experiencing this from a space beyond the intellect. And so today, for the first time that I've taught this workshop, I'm actually going to start with an attunement and just allowing your body to hold the frequency of the information that will be shared afterwards, because this information is very much beyond the intellect. It's beyond the mind. And I love to teach in abstract, because then your body awakens to what it already knows and is holding the frequency for your consciousness to catch up. And we'll talk about that more as well. But before we get started, let's just go ahead and start with the attunement. So go ahead and place your hands on the heart if you would like. And we'll start by breathing in a white blue light and allowing it to trace along the brain, move down through the spine and out through the mouth. We're just attuning the spinal fluid to hold the frequency of divine intelligence, universal intelligence. You can put whatever word feels good to you there. And as we raise the frequency of the spinal fluid, it's activating the parts of the mind that are connected to this intelligence. And as it moves through the heart space, it's activating the heart to hold this intelligence. We'll allow the light to move into your entire body as it activates the cells and the memory of your own divine technology. And just taking a moment to witness the shift as your body absorbs this intelligence. As your body attunes to the information it already knows. And as you're witnessing, it's intensifying and amplifying the frequency within you. All right, so you can go ahead and open your eyes. And we'll go ahead and get started. So I hope that everyone brought an intention today, because this is a BioCreation. So we are in the frequency of creation or creating. And an intention is the easiest way to bring in a frequency beyond what we already are holding. So when we have an intention or something that we're wanting to manifest, and we're bringing that in, the first thing that happens is there is a frequency that matches the intention that we're holding. And that frequency has intelligence. If we can download that frequency on a cellular level into our bodies are then holding the very frequency of where we're moving into. But there's a lot of different steps that are taken that we may not be aware of. And so that's the first thing I want to talk about, is identifying what level of consciousness that we're actually starting our intention from. Because most people get stuck in the third level of consciousness, and I'm going to show you that in just a minute. So before we even go on, I want you to kind of bring in your intention. And I want you to ask yourself, what is that intention going to bring you? Like, why are you asking for the intention? So let's just say right now you're making $2,000 a month and you want to make $10,000 a month. Well, that's a big frequency shift. That's a different, like where you are creating this is very different than who you'll be when you're creating this. But normally we say that we want to bring in an intention because we're wanting to create a different feeling or experience in our life. So knowing what it is that we're actually asking for is very important, because yes, you could say, I want to have $10,000 coming into my bank account every month, but what is that $10,000 giving you? Is it the feeling of safety, of freedom, feeling like you don't have to worry anymore? That would also be created in that place of safety. If it's freedom, then also looking at, well, what am I feeling right now? And what is keeping me from feeling free right now? And the reason that I'm going into all of this is because most often we are creating our intention from primal programming. If the intention is that I want to feel free, we know our intention is being created from our own programming. So just hold that in mind as I go, and I'm going to show you the 5 levels of consciousness and identify where it is that you're asking for your intention. Okay, so I'm going to pen this. Everybody can see that okay? The 5 levels of consciousness. Okay, so let's just go through this, keeping your intention in your heart and your awareness. So of course, the first level of consciousness is just being unconscious. And that's when we're just not aware. This is, I also put in this space kind of the collective. These are just belief systems that we have either agreed to on a personal level or that we're agreeing to on a collective level. And there's a lot of belief systems in here that a lot of us are agreeing to without even really questioning why we're agreeing to this. And when we really start to practice being in the awareness of this, it's really fun to start to kind of butt up against some of the collective belief systems and seeing just how powerful we actually are. And once we get to that place, we really see how, I just want to say we're unstoppable at that place, that we're in this place where we have the ability to start manifesting beyond the limitation of form, of money, of aging, of, you can put whatever you want to put there. So going from being unconscious to awakening is when we have the ability to see what it is that's limiting us or something that we believed in. And we wake up to the fact that we were believing something that we actually have a choice in. So that's the second level of consciousness, is the awakening. And this is also that place of just waking up in general, of being completely unconscious all the time, and then realizing that you actually have a choice in what it is that you even believe. Once we are awake, we have the choice. And what happens when we have choice? Well, we move into the third level of consciousness. And that's what we do with that choice. And this is where so many people kind of get stuck, because once they have the choice, they can choose, okay, I want to believe something different, or I want to create something different, but they are not actually moving out of the third level of consciousness in order to create something different. Meaning they're trying to create from their very programming. So if you're choosing something different, so you wake up, you realize you have a choice, you go into the place where that choice is to create something different, but you never actually moved out of the frequency of what it is that you're making a choice around, meaning that you're choosing to create something different from the program that is still believing in the thing that you just saw. It's really hard to create something different when we're creating from our own programming. Everybody following that? For the people I can see, I just give a nod. So the law of attraction is most often also in the third level of consciousness. The vision board, oh, I'm going to create this because I don't want to feel this, or I'm going to create this so that I don't have to have this. Anytime that we are backing up an intention with safety or wanting an emotion to be fulfilled, we know that we are creating from our programming. So let's talk about emotion really quickly. So I want to manifest $10,000 to come into my bank account every month so that I can feel free and safe. Well, both the emotions of freedom and safety are something that is coming from our programming, because our programming is looking to fulfill an emotion in order to bypass feeling primal programming. A feeling is different than an emotion. Emotion is that chemical response that our body releases, and then it's connecting to an experience that we've had either in the past or in our primal programming that floods our body. The emotion of falling in love, that chemical response that gets really, this one is actually really fun because we all love the feeling of falling in love, right? We love it, but it is a chemical that's being released in our body. Why would that happen? Well, you know instantly that that is connected to primal programming, because that chemical of falling in love brings us to quote unquote mate so that evolution of mankind can continue. So on a conscious level, now that we know this, it can be kind of take away a little bit of the fun, but that doesn't mean that you don't ride the wave, you guys. That's not what I'm saying. But it is important to know the difference between an emotion and a feeling, because if we're seeking emotion, then we know that we are creating a life around our programming, whether it's primal programming or programming of repeated behaviors or agreements. A feeling is a frequency. So it's just used the same thing as love. We just know that we love someone. The frequency of love can actually be measured. It's 528 hertz. It is a frequency. It doesn't release a chemical response in the body. It is just a feeling. It's a resonance where we can identify information in a frequency, and the information of 528 hertz is love. It has an intelligence. So just holding on all that and going back to the law of attraction. If we are trying to create something new from the third level of consciousness, we may be able to get a little bit of what it is that we're trying to create, but it's never going to move out of the frequency of where we're actually creating it from. And a lot of times we may start the creation of it, but we can't hold the frequency that the intention was actually made in, and we'll move back into the experience that we already have, or we won't be able to create it at all. This is why we have to move into the fourth level of consciousness. The fourth level of consciousness is co-creation. It's a co-creation with an intelligence that's held in the frequency of your intention. So going back to what we were talking about, so when you call in an intention, this is why we use intention, because it allows us to connect to an intelligence outside of our programming. So when we call in the intention, it has a frequency. And we have the ability, using our intuitive powers, our intuition, to connect to that intelligence and read information outside of programming. So co-creation is also when we get to the place where we actually move beyond having to place intention in order to read a frequency outside of ourselves. That's the practice in the beginning. But I also want you to just kind of feel into the place of, what if I just let go of intention altogether and I open myself up to actually existing in the fourth level of consciousness all the time? Well, what would that look like? It would be the ability to bypass repeating the looping cycle of thought or feeling like I need to have something in order to create an emotion. And I stay open to receiving information outside of thought. That's the experience of listen. So you're listening to an intelligence, that universal intelligence. So it's not specific to any one frequency of an intention. At that point, the intention is just to listen. What is my necessary step? Like how can I bring in that co-creation where I'm actually creating with the universe beyond what I think it is that I want? That's truly being in the fourth level of consciousness. And we start to live our life from a place of listen and do. And then I'll just tap into the fifth level of consciousness here. And that's the ability to actually be the creator and the creation at the same time, where we actually become the intelligence of the universe, the divine, whatever word feels right for you there. But we're not actually ever stepping out of that intelligence in order to identify in it, meaning we just are the intelligence, and consciousness of that intelligence isn't needed because we've already reached the intelligence of the creation itself. I won't go into a lot of that, but it is fun to just kind of tap into it. All right, so now going back to your intention, and you have the ability to see, where am I creating this intention from? The easiest way to take your intention and bring it into a higher level or a higher frequency is being honest about where I'm asking for my intention is, first of all. So, okay, I'm going to create $10,000 a month so that I can feel safe and I can feel free. The last thing that we want to do in creating intention is to put any qualifiers, we could say. So I want to create $10,000 a month and I never want to leave my house. I only want to talk to nice people. And I only want to have to work 3 hours a week. Those qualifiers need to go. So all the qualifiers leave. And the intention is, I'm going to manifest $10,000 a month. Then we're going to actually attune that to that intelligence that's outside of our programming. But before we do that, we want to give the ego, or the part of us that is identifying in programming, a reason beyond creating an emotion that we are going to move into this frequency. So all we're doing is upping the frequency even more. So if it's, I want to manifest $10,000 a month so that I can feel free and safe, just shifting it a little bit to saying, I'm going to manifest $10,000 a month so that I can see just how powerful the universe can work through me in order to create something magical. Do you see the difference in that frequency? It's like one is feeding primal programming and the other is feeding your potential. So before I move on, and I'm not going to be able to see everybody, but does anybody need help with bringing their intention into that higher frequency the way I just did? Because that's what we want to tune you to as we move into reprogramming on a cellular level. So if you do, just put your hand up in on your participant and I'll be able to see you. All right. And then if not, we'll just continue. Beautiful. All right. So let's talk a little bit about why we want to reprogram on a cellular level over reprogramming through the mind. So everything we just did was kind of taking in information through the mind. Your consciousness isn't actually in the mind. Your consciousness is in your body. And science is now showing that this is actually true, that your skin has a consciousness and your organs have a consciousness and your heart has a consciousness. You could say your brain has a consciousness. So if you add all of that up together, what is consciousness? Your entire body. The ability to name your body as the house of consciousness probably isn't really true either, because consciousness is a vibration that is tuning in to whatever the vibration that you're holding or the frequency that you're holding, and receiving that as information and then creating a reality around it. Consciousness is a tool. It's the ability to have awareness of information in a frequency. Most of us don't realize that that is the way we're creating our choices, because we're consistently bringing consciousness into our programming and creating or recreating, would probably be a better word for that, a reality that we already have. So we never actually move out of the frequency that we're in. We may dip in frequency and we may go up in frequency because we do fluctuate in frequency, but we're never actually consciously aware of what it is that's being created. But as conscious beings, we have the ability to tune in to an intelligence beyond that, what we would call the looping cycle, the matrix, whatever word that you want to put there. It's the illusion that what it is that we're choosing or not choosing and how conscious we are of that is actually real. And it's true, because it may be true to our experience, but the truth is that if we can back out of that experience and we can tune in to an experience outside of the program or what is in form, we have the ability to start to gamify reality. But the first thing that we have to do in order to do that is to take consciousness and tune in to the frequency that has intelligence outside of ourselves. Everything is intelligent. There is intelligence in the matrix. There is an intelligence within the matrix or within our own reality that has the ability to bring us out of that reality altogether. So what is consciousness? Consciousness is a tool that we can use to move in frequency, and hopefully we're moving up in frequency until we meet the frequency from which we were created. Then we fully embody that frequency, consciously move into that frequency, and we become that intelligence. This is how we can evolve our experience and start to live outside of programming altogether. When we start to reprogram on a cellular level, to tap into that intelligence and allow that intelligence to start attuning our body, where is our consciousness? Well, right now it's in the experience of the body. So if we can start attuning and reprogramming our body to hold that intelligence, the very environment that our consciousness is in begins to attune to that intelligence. So I'm going to give you an example. So you have I think we all have had this experience. Let's just say you go to a retreat or to a conference, and when you're there, you're around a lot of upbeat people, people that are very successful. The speaker is teaching you how to be successful, and you are just pumped up. You are just feeling so good. Or you're at a retreat and you're doing a lot of things to raise your frequency. And because your frequency is raising, you notice that your thoughts start to match that frequency, and you maybe feel more creative. You have inspiration, you have higher perspective, you have choices that you're going to make differently in your life because you've met a frequency where you feel that's possible. And then you leave the retreat, and then a week later, you can't remember how to get back to that frequency where you felt like you could do all the things that you chose to do when you were there. Well, the same thing is true with your body. Like right now, your body is holding the environment of the reality that you're in now because you are playing out the programming that your body is holding. But when we start to reprogram your body to the experience to hold the frequency of that retreat or the convention, then your consciousness is in the very environment of bringing you into your highest potential all the time. Bruce Lipton has a saying that your cells are like little soldiers that are waiting to be told what to do. This is how we can use the ability of reaching a frequency of an intention and then downloading that frequency into our cells so that it can hold the expression beyond the limitations of our own mind. Then when the frequency of our body is holding what it is that we want to bring into creation, eventually our consciousness will also attune to that frequency. It's a lot easier than trying to change the thoughts through the mind. Does anybody have any questions about that or something they want to reflect back on that? You can just raise your hand in the chat. Okay, you guys are so quiet today. All right. Oh, go ahead, Shannon.
I love everything you're sharing. I'm curious if you can, because I don't like to use these words, the body is hard to reprogram versus say you're at the conference, but could you give a little detail, like say if I wanted to balance hormones, can you give a little example of that
Beautiful.
with
Yes.
the chart?
Yeah. So with the chart. Okay. So here, go back to this. All right. So let's say you're just unconscious. Let's say that the hormones are out of balance. Then you see, oh, okay. And what that experience could be is, I mean, for women, maybe your periods are different, or you find that you're more emotional, or you are starting to gain weight. Oh, I think all women would understand. I don't know what this would be for a man because I'm not one, but men, I think you can plug in that experience for you. Okay, so then you awaken to what your body's showing you. Then you move into the third level of consciousness of like, okay, well, I'm going to choose to reprogram my body to the frequency of balanced hormones. So then you just place the intention. So you created the choice, and because that's the intention, that frequency came in. So to move it into the fourth level of consciousness, so then we would have to be clear about, well, why am I asking this? Well, I want my body to be, and so we'll say maybe in the third level of consciousness, we would say, because I don't want to feel sad, or I don't want to gain weight, or whatever. We can put whatever it is there. Well, to bring it into optimum, or bringing the frequency into a space where it's consistently bringing us into our highest potential, I would say, I would like to balance my hormones so that my body knows it has the ability to consistently hold optimum potential all the time. That there's no limitation on age, what time of month it is, where we can start to put limitations on what that experience would be. So then now the frequency of my intention just raised even more. At that point, and that this is a process we're going to do, I would allow it to move on and onto a cellular level to where, well, and we're going to do this, but we bring the cell into the expression of that intention. I think this is a good time to talk about the difference between a reflection and why we want to bring reflection into expression. So this is such a great question, Shannon, because once we see that something is out of balance, that's what we use reflection for, so that we can see what needs to be shifted. Once we see it, then we want to bring it into that space where it's holding an intelligence outside of our programming. And then we want to invite that intelligence into our cells to move the cell into an expression. Well, what happens when we do that? The cell is no longer looking for information outside of itself to tell it what to do, like collective consciousness or the agreement that our hormones go out of balance at certain times of the month, or as we get older, that we're going to gain weight. I'm not sure where that feedback is coming from, but I'm going to go and mute everybody. Mute. Okay, and then if you want to talk, you can unmute yourself. When the body or when the cell is in an expression, it is no longer looking for information to tell it what to do. That's where we can actually shift the whole, and this is probably a whole nother workshop, but epigenetics is only true to a certain level, that if we're actually looking at the information that's there, that we're not taking it a step further and attuning that information and bringing it back into the purity of divine expression or universal expression, because in that space, epigenetics actually don't even exist. And this is how we can start to program ourselves to bypass hormones, aging, whatever it is. So yes, today we're using it for an intention, and whatever that intention is, that we can create a reality around making that $10,000 a month. But we can also use it to do things like what you're saying. Did I answer your question, Shannon?
Just looking for mute. Yeah, that's perfect. It's a great reminder of the master cell and working from that area, and how simplistic this can be to bypass the programming. So I'm always interested in the ways with the body, because we can get so locked into time in those areas. And I realize that's what creates the degeneration. So that answered everything.
I love it. And I love this question. And these are the ones where there's everything in me wants to just go super advanced. And let's talk about how to break a timeline now. And, but that's not what this workshop is about. But this is how we can take something as simple as this and just know, well, am I still doing it from here? Or am I inviting in this frequency to where my body is actually in the co-creation of that divine intelligence that it already holds? And we all have this intelligence inside of us, every single one of us. And that's why I love that saying. It only makes sense that we will meet the level of consciousness from which we were created. It's impossible not to, because you are that creation. You are that intelligence. It's just all of the programming and being in the experience of using reflection to tell us who we are has bypassed that intelligence. And now all we're doing is we're turning that inside out and allowing that intelligence to become the reality of our body, the reality of our thoughts, the reality of what we're creating, and really tapping into the potential of what it is to be human. Right now, we're using 10 to 15% of our potential. It's time to awaken that other 85 to 90%. I mean, doesn't that give you chills? And is there something inside of you that is like, I know that's true. I know that we are so much more than the reality that we've created for ourselves. I'm guessing that's probably why you're here, because we are starting to tap into that intelligence. And for some of us, we just need the tools to know how to use it. And that's what we're doing here. All right, did I forget anything? So we talked about why we're going to reprogram on a cellular level. What I'd like to do now is a universal clearing. So we're going to work with that master cell that Shannon was talking about. We're going to work on the universal master cell. So Brenda chills. Yes, the tools that you guys, that's really, and that's what I love about everybody that's here, is we don't need to know what's wrong with this anymore. We just need to be able to see what's wrong with us and know how to shift it. That's what we're here for. We're here to know how to shift it. And that's all we need are the tools. We just need to know how, and then we go do it. And then we start to create mastery level of the human experience. Kathy.
And it's not looking for evidence where you know, it's like going into that place of mastery, but it's not looking at evidence to see if we're doing it right or see if there's things that come in. That's what I notice, is that when you stay out of that, then it allows you to move up.
I love what you're saying, Kathy, because I think it's worth looking at that here. So when we move into that co-creation space and we're tapping into an intelligence outside of our programming, and we're in that doing, we're in that listening and doing, listening and doing, listening and doing. Well, it's normal to, because we are programmed to be in duality or reflection, to want to go and step out of the creation to look at what's being created. Well, as soon as we do that, it's okay to do that a little bit because it's fun. It's like, oh, wow, look what I created. But if we stay there for too long, interference starts to come in, because the part of us that's looking at what's being created is our programming. It's the part of us that needs to see what's being created. And so we start to create interruption patterns. And that's when we know, uh-oh, I just moved back down to the third level of consciousness. And then we invite the intelligence to come back in, and we move back into the expression of that intelligence. And I can just feel, I can hear somebody asking this, so I'm going to bring this in. I'm hearing the question, well, how do we tune into that intelligence? How do we know what it's saying? And that's going to be a whole nother class, but that's what we use our intuitive powers for, you guys. You have an intuition, and there's 3 levels of intuition. You know, the baseline intuition is the ability to read more on that primal level, but it bridges us to the experience of being able to tap into an intelligence and read that intelligence beyond even our primal programming. Those are all tools that we just need to learn how to use, and bringing them to an advanced level where we actually become that intelligence. And this is all innate in us. We already know this. Like, there's that part of you that knows that you should be able to heal instantly is right. That part of you that knows you should be able to balance hormones in seconds is right. It's just, we have to be able to tap into the intelligence and allow our consciousness to connect into that, to where we can start to reprogram on a cellular level. And our cells hold this intelligence, you guys. The DNA, your DNA has this intelligence, and is all we have to do is go in, tap into it, turn it on, and allow it to express. And then we use consciousness to read the information of what it's expressing. It's really that easy. And that just gave me chills because it's so fun. Okay, I see a couple things coming up in the chat. So before we start, let me make sure. Yes, it's knowing what level of consciousness you're creating from, and then having the tools to use them to make the shift. I get it. Yes, I love it. Okay, everybody ready to attune themselves on a cellular level? to hold the intelligence of your intention from the highest potential of your intention. So I want $10,000 a month so that I can feel free. I want $10,000 a month so that I can step into the frequency of creating my highest potential that brings in $10,000 a month. So that it's about bringing in an intelligence beyond where you are now so that you can see just how powerful you are. Okay, so again, let's just shut our eyes, and I invite you to put your hands on your heart if you would like. If not, just sitting in a comfortable position. And we're going to be working with the master cell. The first thing I'm going to be doing is clearing some of that collective programming, and then we'll attune the cell to hold the intelligence of your intention. But again, let's start by attuning the body. So bringing in that white blue light, allowing it to trace along the brain and move down through the spine and out through the mouth. So we activate the mind and the heart to hold this divine intelligence, the universal intelligence, the intelligence from which you were created. So the first thing I want to do is just give you an experience of what it feels like to bring consciousness into a frequency. So in the center of your brain, see, sense, hear, feel, however you sense something outside of your programming, just bringing a white blue light into the center of your head. And now allowing your consciousness with your intention to move into the light. And once it merges with the light, allowing the light to expand and fill your entire mind, your entire physical brain. And when that happens, you're pushing your consciousness to fill the entire space of the light. This is the experience of bringing reflection into the expression with your consciousness. And you're going to be using this with the cell as we continue. So I'm going to be moving into the universal master cell in the center of the brain, the physical brain. We're just going to read some programming here. All right, so we're going to clear, cancel, and delete. I need proof. It's hard to believe something I cannot see. We're going to clear, cancel, and delete the fear of change, the fear of not knowing. We're going to clear, cancel, and delete I have to know how before I can take action. We're going to clear, cancel, and delete I need to know the end result before I take action. We're going to clear, cancel, and delete the fear of stepping into full potential, the fear of being 100% responsible for the reality I'm creating. We're going to clear, cancel, and delete the fear of trusting in the unknown. We'll bring in the 7 elements as we clear all of these limiting beliefs, bringing the cell into neutral form. Just witnessing the shift in your body as those belief systems clear. So it opens up, bringing in a higher frequency. And as the cell is moved into a neutral space, we're going to invite in the intelligence held in the frequency of your intention. So for each of you, this is happening right now. You don't have to try, it's just coming in just by thinking it, inviting it. And then we're going to allow this beautiful frequency to attune to the divine intelligence within your DNA. So I invite you to bring your consciousness into the experience of your divine technology. You don't need to know how, just knowing that as we're doing this together, it's being done for you, but we're inviting you into the experience of what it feels like to do it for yourself. Bringing your consciousness into the DNA and now pushing it through the divine technology, allowing it to attune your attention. And then again, just like you did with the white blue light, you're bringing this technology into full expression. And this expression moves into the physical brain. It moves down through the spine. And because we're working with the Universal Master Cell, it is attuning every cell of your body to hold this expression. Just witnessing and experiencing. As it reprograms the mind, the heart, and every cell of your body to hold divine intelligence in the frequency of your intention. And from this place, we're going to create an identity of who you are in this intention. I am powerful. I am unstoppable. I cannot fail. Just letting yourself attune to that. If I am unstoppable and I cannot fail, if I am powerful, how will I be choosing my reality in alignment with my intention? What thoughts will I be thinking? What action steps will I be taking? Knowing that I cannot fail. And just letting yourself light up in the truth of who you are. Just taking in a deep breath. And we'll lock that in. And then we say, thank you. I love you. It is done. All right, so it is done. And that last place of asking, who am I in this frequency? So if I am powerful, I am unstoppable, and I cannot fail. Who am I? And how am I going to be moving forward in the frequency of my intention? And being aware of when we're choosing from here, or if we're choosing from here.